Well, it kind of looks like that Restore the Snyderverse isn't going to happen anytime soon. Hey, welcome back to the Ping Pong Flix. My name is Chris Wong. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of you got one of these, and it is amazing. All those years of saying, release the Snyder Cut, it finally happened. And we have finally got a real movie in our hand. It's on HBO Max streaming, if you still have HBO Max. We also got digital copies of it. It's out there. It's real. And this movie certainly showed that Zack Snyder was right. His direction was stronger than what the studio made with the Joss Whedon's version of Justice League, and it meant a lot to all of us who fought for the Snyder Cut, especially for the people that said it didn't exist. Well, we proved them wrong. But most of all, no pun intended, but it was justice for Snyder, his family, the cast, and crew, and it was a historical moment in cinematic history. So the question was that if this is the superior product, the very best Justice League film we've ever gotten, there is sure to have more of this, right? And, you would think so, but, as we know, the previous regime didn't quite like the direction that Zack Snyder was going. They had their own plans, and, honestly, I think that's kind of falling apart now that the previous regime is gone. So you would think maybe Warner Bros. Discovery would kind of pick that up and say, hey, I think we got something good here that we could expand and continue on. And I know there are a lot of rumors out there that David Zaslav is restoring the Snyderverse. David Zaslav loves the Snyderverse. And in a way, instead of having a positive discussion online, there seems to be a lot of negative discourse that's going around. Fans attacking people who are anti-Snyder instead of just ignoring them or blocking them, which is not unlike the other fandoms like Star Wars and Star Trek and, all those other ones. Or even, right now, Lord of the Rings. But apparently this vocal minority is now attacking Jay Oliva. Jay Oliva? Why would they be attacking him? I know. That's kind of insane. Jay Oliva is the storyboard artist for Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Zack Snyder's Justice League, and a ton of Marvel movies at that. He's also the director for Justice League Flashpoint Paradox, The Dark Knight Returns 1 and 2, and even Justice League War. This dude is doing amazing work, and he's literally almost like Zack Snyder's right-hand man when it comes to developing the movies and series that they're working together. In fact, they're both doing Army of the Dead Las Vegas. They're both doing Twilight of the Gods. They're both doing Rebel Moon. So essentially, Jay Oliva would know what's the next projects that Zack Snyder would be working on, because Zack Snyder always calls him up to work on new stuff. So when it came time when fans were asking, well, are we going to get the Restore the Snyderverse, essentially Zack Snyder's Justice League Part 2 and 3? Jay Oliva said this: you're not going to get it if all we are known for is toxicity. It's show business. We showed we weren't bots when we crashed the servers when the Snyder Cut was released. We bought the hell out of it when it came out on physical and digital media. That's how we show that there's an interest in continuing the Snyderverse. We should be engaging in positive discourse to promote the movement and suicide prevention. Instead, we are acting like kids being called names in the schoolyard. This is business with millions of dollars at stake. In order to make a case, we have to approach it like adults and offer something that makes good business sense. If we cannot do that, then there is no future. And probably a lot of Snyder fans are going to get really triggered by that. And I don't think you have to, because I think if you're honest with yourself and you know that you've been doing positive things out there, you know that you're not part of that vocal minority that is toxic. And he knows that as well. 100% of the fandom worked hard to get the film released. There's a small vocal minority that's undermining what we accomplished by being toxic. I have eyes and ears, and it's not just from my friends I'm hearing it from. You do realize I work in Hollywood, right? Which is an interesting concern, at least for me, because Jay, who's very close to Zack Snyder, is also hearing this on the business side from people he works with. And my God, I hope he's not hearing this from the potential projects that he is going to work on. I hope they're not bringing it up like, hey, should we hire this guy because he's involved with the Snyder Cut fandom? Because if this toxicity is affecting future projects that Jay has to work on, or even Zack Snyder, that's a terrible, terrible thing. I'm hearing it being brought up in business meetings, and it's the narrative that's being perpetuated by the media. Doesn't mean it's true, but it's getting out of hand. And I'm sure these business meetings may even include Warner Bros. Discovery. Maybe they saw the numbers for this movie and they were like, hey, that's great, that's not bad. But maybe they have this general sense that the fandom may be problematic. I mean, they are the ones that own the IP, so they'll be the ones that decide whether or not to let Zack Snyder come back and make Justice League 2 and 3. But I thought the rumors were that David Zaslav already approached Zack Snyder and they are already working together discussing Zack Snyder's Justice League 2 and 3. Well, Jay Oliva said this: they aren't going to invite Zack back unless they see a clear financial gain. Zack isn't going to come back unless they make him a really great offer after the way he was treated with the old regime. It's all business, and our rep as a fandom will keep that from happening. And I've said this on another video before that Zack really wants a couple things. He wants total creative freedom, and he wants to have the budget needed to create whatever he needed to make. And until that happens, there really is no deal. But the fact that Warner Bros. Discovery may not even be approaching him because of the Snyder Cut fandom, that is troubling. That is essentially something that Jay Oliva says we need to fix. And honestly, all the things that Jay Oliva is saying today, it really feels like this is something Zack would say. It's just that Zack is too nice of a guy to come out and say it. Though he did suggest something back in the day when the Snyder Cut first released, and this was on Vanity Fair. The trolls may have actually held back the movement, like looters at an otherwise peaceful demonstration. Snyder cringes at descriptions of the abusive tactics. I 100% think it's wrong, he says. I don't think that anyone should be calling anyone anything. I've always tried to give people in the fandom attention who do good things. Which is true, you do see Zack Snyder giving all of his attention to the people who are setting up all these American Foundation suicide prevention events, and that really is a strong partnership and friendship between him and those fans. But does that mean there is no chance in hell that we're ever going to have the Restore the Snyderverse? We'll ever get to see his vision of Zack Snyder's Justice League 2 and 3? Well, I gotta say never, because we never even thought we were going to get the Snyder Cut. But here it is. It actually happened. So anything is possible. In fact, Jay Oliva even said that. Anything is possible. But his dance card looks to be full for the next few years, with Rebel Moon and other Netflix stuff. I can't speak for him, but that's just my impression. I'd love for him to come back, but he's got obligations right now with his current films. And that's very much true. The reality is that Zack Snyder is super busy over at Netflix. He's really excited to show us Rebel Moon, Army of the Dead Las Vegas, the Army of the Dead sequel, Planet of the Dead, then Twilight of the Gods. And probably when Rebel Moon is successful, there's going to be a lot more Rebel Moon movies. But like Jay Oliva says, we have to offer something that makes good business sense. So during the time where Zack Snyder is doing all his different projects, we should really support that and show that the general audience loves Zack Snyder's work, adding value to the Zack Snyder name. So that when Warner Bros. Discovery sees that, look at the value of Zack Snyder's name, couple that with the DC, we could have a really strong Justice League movies. And at the same time, keep the timeline clean, support what Zack Snyder has to do. At least Warner Bros. Discovery is going to continue with the DC characters that Snyder created. But if you're still enticed, continue to ask for the Zack Snyder's Justice League 2 and 3. Alright, now that we know Zack Snyder is truly busy over at Netflix, are you excited for his 2-part Netflix movie, Rebel Moon? I am. Share your thoughts in the comments down below.